Welcome and thank you for joining me on another gentle journey through the quieter corridors of history. Tonight, we'll travel back to the Roman Empire not to witness its conquests or hear the roar of the Colosseum, but to slip softly into the steam and stillness of its daily life. As the world outside your window settles into stillness, let us draw the curtain on modern distractions and step slowly into a world shaped by stone aqueducts, sandal-clad feet, and the hiss of heated water. We'll begin with a walk into the warm, tiled world of a Roman bathhouse, not a palace of luxury as many imagine, but a space of routine, ritual, and sweat. A space both ordinary and strange, both public and oddly intimate. Then, when we've lingered long enough in the mist, we'll travel to the life of a builder-emperor, Hadrian, whose love of architecture shaped the empire's very image. From there, we'll explore the curious question of Roman hygiene, what they believed, what they practiced, and what we can learn from their surprisingly complex approach to cleanliness. And finally, we'll end with those who lived very differently, the elite women and pampered aristocrats who approached bathing as theater perfumed, powdered, and surrounded by attendants. This is not a tale of battles or glory. It is a slow, detailed unfolding of what it truly meant to live in another time. So settle in, breathe deeply, and allow the rhythm of their lives to gently quiet your own. Now, imagine yourself walking down a stone-paved street in ancient Rome. Segment 1. What it was really like in a Roman bathhouse. Imagine the sun slipping past the terracotta rooftops of the Subura district. The streets are thick with dust and the scent of olive oil, bread, and sweat. You finished your day perhaps hauling goods, filing legal paperwork, or simply walking the markets, and now you're remaking your way to one of Rome's most essential institutions, the bathhouse. Contrary to modern assumptions, a Roman bathhouse wasn't only for the rich. It was a communal space accessible to most citizens, though the finer ones charged small entry fees. For many Romans, the thermae or balnea were less a place of indulgence and more a necessary part of the daily grind. Like brushing teeth or checking a phone, today's something you just did. You enter the appetiterium, the changing room. The air is humid. The stone benches are cool against your skin as you untie your tunic and place your belongings into small wall niches, perhaps guarded by a slave or left at your own risk. Theft was common here, and graffiti on the walls often warned against it. You're barefoot now, walking across tiled mosaics, depictions of sea creatures, gods, and geometric designs worn smooth by thousands of footsteps. The air smells faintly of smoke and bodies. You hear echoes of conversation, splashing water, and the scraping of a strigil, a curved bronze scraper used to cleanse oil and grime from the skin. You enter the tepidarium, the warm room. The heat is gentle, and your pores begin to open. The room is dimly lit, with a few bronze lamps casting a sleepy glow across the walls. This is the transition space, where your body prepares for the more intense heat to come. You sit for a while, breathing in steam and sweat, listening to snippets of Latin conversation and the drip of condensation falling from the vaulted ceilings. Next comes the caldarium, the hot room. It hits you like a wave-dense, wet heat envelops your skin. This room is the heart of the bathhouse, heated from below by a hypocaust system, where slaves feed fires beneath raised floors to warm the stone slabs. The air shimmers slightly, and your skin beads with moisture instantly. Here, you might anoint yourself with oil thick, sometimes perfumed and rubbed in by hand or by a companion. Then you use the strigil to scrape the oil and accumulated grime away. It's a ritual both cleansing and a little abrasive. There is no soap. Cleanliness is a mechanical affair. The water itself isn't for swimming, not really. Shallow pools and basins offer hot and cold dips. But many bathers spend more time sweating, scraping, and socializing than soaking. The bathhouse is as much a forum as it is a spa. Business deals are struck here. Gossip travels faster than steam. Politics, gladiators, and household scandals float freely in the air. After enough time sweating and scraping, you pass into the frigidarium, the cold room. The water is shockingly brisk. Your muscles tighten. It is invigorating, even bracing. The experience ends here cool, clean, and slightly dizzy from the heat. You return to the appetitarium to dress. Perhaps you finish with a snack purchased from a vendor just outside. Dates, cheese, maybe mulled wine. The experience has taken an hour, maybe two, and tomorrow you'll likely return again. It's not a luxury, it's routine, it's hygiene, it's community. As you step back onto the dusty road, the sounds of the city resume. The rhythm of your life continues, washed, oiled, and oddly restored. Segment 2, Hadrian, the emperor who built his empire in stone. Imagine, for a moment, standing beneath the towering columns of the Pantheon in Rome. The sky is visible through the great oculus above, a perfect circle that opens this domed masterpiece to the heavens. The structure is calm, timeless, enduring, and at the heart of this vision is one man. A Roman emperor not best known for conquest or cruelty, but for his mind, his desire to shape an empire not only through power, but through permanence. His name was Publius Aelius Hadrianus, or as history remembers him, Hadrian. Born in 76 CE in Hispania, what is now Spain. Hadrian grew up far from the heart of Rome, yet he was well connected, a relative of the future Emperor Trajan. From a young age, he was drawn not only to military service, but also to Greek culture, architecture, and the arts. He was what many Roman elites scornfully called a Graeculus, a little Greek. He read poetry, studied philosophy, and later in life even grew a beard in the Greek fashion unusual for Roman emperors. Hadrian became emperor in 117 CE, but unlike his predecessors, he did not seek to expand Rome's borders. Instead, he chose to consolidate, to reinforce, to define, and to build. His reign marked a turning point, a move from endless expansion to thoughtful permanence. He traveled extensively, more than any Roman emperor before or after him. He walked the streets of Athens, sailed down the Nile, and stood on the cold, windswept frontier of Britannia. And in each place, he left behind something built to last. In northern Britain, he ordered the construction of Hadrian's Wall, a stone barrier nearly 80 Roman miles long, marking the edge of empire. It was not simply a wall of defense. It was a symbol, a declaration of Rome's presence at the edge of the known world. The wall undulated with the land, flanked by ditches and forts, manned by soldiers from distant provinces. Today, it still stands in fragments, soft with moss and lichen, whispering of Rome's distant reach. Back in Rome, Hadrian rebuilt the Pantheon after fire destroyed an earlier version. He preserved the front portico, but revolutionized the interior with its vast coffered dome. He also commissioned the Temple of Venus in Roma, said to be one of the largest temples in the city. He did not build merely for function, he built to inspire, to endure. His architectural passion extended beyond grandeur. He created villas, most famously the sprawling Villa Adriana at Tivoli. This was no ordinary country estate. It was a world unto itself, with baths, theaters, libraries, and landscaped gardens reflecting the cultures he admired. There were Egyptian colonnades, Greek peristyles, and grand pools reflecting the sky. Yet Hadrian's reign was not without shadows. His decision to withdraw from recently conquered Mesopotamia angered the Senate. And in Judea, a long and devastating rebellion, the Bar Kokhba revolt, erupted during his rule, leading to widespread destruction and suffering. In its aftermath, Hadrian renamed the province and banned certain Jewish practices, leaving deep scars that history still remembers. He was a man of contradictions, both builder and destroyer, poet and strategist, reformer and traditionalist. He loved beauty, yet enforced harsh discipline. He admired Greek learning, yet ruled the Roman world. In his final years, Hadrian's health declined. He grew reclusive and bitter, often at odds with the Senate. He died in 138 CE and was buried in a grand mausoleum by the Tiber, what we now call Castel Sant'Angelo. And yet his legacy endures not in battles won or enemies slain, but in bricks and marble, and aqueducts and temples. In the enduring echo of footsteps across a stone threshold he once envisioned. Hadrian reminds us that history is not only written in war, but also in what we choose to build, and what we choose to preserve. Now, from the solidity of stone and imperial plans, let's transition to something more elusive, something uncovered only in fragments through ash and soil. We'll turn now to ancient hygiene, a mystery not of murder or treasure, but of cleanliness, clay pots, and curious habits. A softer puzzle, one that lies buried in the bathhouses and sewer systems of a world long gone. Segment 3. Did Romans really stay clean? Ancient hygiene and its hidden clues. Let's drift now from grand villas and imperial monuments into something more intimate, more ordinary. Close your eyes and imagine yourself not as a soldier or emperor, but as an average Roman citizen. Perhaps in a quiet apartment above a noisy street, you stir awake at dawn to the clatter of hooves on cobbles and the soft gurgle of water traveling through ancient pipes. Soon, like many Romans, you'll make your way to a place the empire took great pride in, the public baths, a cornerstone of daily life. But what exactly did it mean to be clean in ancient Rome? And were they really? The Roman obsession with bathing has long fascinated historians and archaeologists alike. Entire complexes called thermae were constructed not just for washing, but for socializing, relaxing, and even conducting business. Some were grand, like the baths of Caracal or Diocletian, while others were modest neighborhood balnea tucked into quiet courtyards. Bathing was a ritual, a routine, a rhythm. One entered the apodicterium, the changing room, and left clothes in a niche or cubby. Then came the tepidarium, a warm chamber for easing into the heat. Next, the caldarium, hot and steamy, where the skin would glisten with sweat. Finally, a plunge into the frigidarium, cold and bracing to close the pores. And yet, hygiene was not quite what we imagine today. There was no soap as we know it. Instead, oil was used, rubbed onto the skin, and then scraped away with a curved metal tool called a strigil, removing sweat and grime. This oil, mixed with dirt, would fall to the floor or basins, and sometimes it was collected. In certain cases, it was even sold for its supposed medicinal or cosmetic value. To modern eyes, this might seem unpleasant. The baths were crowded. The water wasn't always clean. Sponges were shared attached to sticks and used communally, especially in public latrines. There were no sinks, no hand sanitizer, no toothpaste. And yet, to the Romans, these places were deeply refined. They represented order, ritual, and care for the body. Archaeology has revealed many layers of this world. Latrines with marble seats, sewers still damp with moisture, clay pipes glazed with mineral deposits, and graffiti etched by bathers on walls offering wry jokes or bits of verse. One such inscription from Pompeii reads, "Secundus, the perfume seller, was here." A quiet human moment echoing across the centuries. Toilet habits, too, reveal a blend of practicality and mystery. The Romans used sponges on stick storsoriums, which were rinsed in water or vinegar between uses. These were stored communally in stone basins. It's thought that a single sponge might be used by many in a single day. Not quite the privacy of a modern bathroom. And what of the famous aqueducts, the great arteries of Roman water supply? These marvels carried fresh water into cities and towns from springs often miles away. Through gravity and engineering alone, fountains flowed, cisterns filled, and baths steamed with warmth. Some aqueducts even featured settling tanks to allow sediment to drop out, a kind of primitive filtration. Yet clean water was not guaranteed. Lead pipes, though efficient, could leach toxins. Mosquitoes bred in still basins. And not all Romans had access to running water. Many poor families still relied on cisterns, wells, or public fountains, filling jars each morning by hand. Cleanliness, then, was both a matter of perception and status. To bathe daily was ideal, but only for those with means and time. The very poor might have bathed irregularly. Some bathed in rivers, others washed with cloths and oil at home. And for all their bathing, Romans didn't always use soap, didn't brush their teeth as we do, and knew nothing of microbes or bacteria. Yet in their world, the baths were centers of life. The water flowed. The strigil scraped. The perfume seller left his mark. Today what remains is quiet, cold mosaic floors, marble fragments, and the faint memory of warm oil on skin. Let us now rise gently from the stone benches of the caldarium. The air is still humid and scented faintly with lavender or myrrh, and make our way toward the world of wealth, of luxury, of fine silk and feathered fans. We'll now step into the villas of the Roman elite and explore a life lived not in grime and labor, but in abundance. In orchestras of fountains, reclining couches, and daily feasts. Segment 5. The Forgotten Trades, the invisible hands of Roman survival. Long after the soldiers had retired to their barracks and the senators to their estates. Long after the public baths had emptied and the bakers had sold their last loaves ... there remained a world still in quiet motion. Not all Romans were fighters or philosophers, aristocrats or slaves. Some lived in the narrow margins between. They were the glow of empire, the quiet gears that turned beneath the marble facade. Imagine now that you are one of them. Perhaps you are a Phalonica worker, a fool arising before dawn to tend the cloth of Rome. Your job is to clean, whiten, and press tunics for those who can afford them. You tread them gently in shallow stone basins, using a solution of water, clay, and sometimes ammonia. Yes, it's not glamorous work, but it is steady, and in the stillness of morning, as steam rises from the water, there is something rhythmic, almost meditative about your labor. Or perhaps you are a scribe's assistant, copying contracts onto smooth parchment with a steady hand. You work in the back room of a tabularium, among shelves of bundled scrolls and wooden tablets. The scratching of stylus on wax fills the air. Outside, the world may be chaotic, but in here, things are orderly line by line, stroke by stroke. Then there are the perfumers in narrow shops near the temple districts, mixing crushed myrrh and rose oil into tiny ceramic flasks. Their work is delicate, their reputations fierce. A single poor batch can ruin a name. The fragrances they create will be worn by noble women, by brides, by temple priestesses, even offered to the gods. Or picture the lamp maker crouched by his wheel, forming rows of clay oil lamps with practiced hands. He carves tiny faces, gods, animals, chariots onto each one, a brief flash of artistry in a world of repetition. His lamps will light tenement halls and bathhouse corridors, be burned in morning rituals, or clutched by a child afraid of the dark. All around Rome, people like this lived in the background. Saddle makers, weavers, bead stringers, tile layers, coopers, millers, rope makers, scribes. They had no monuments. Their names were rarely etched into stone, but their labor made Roman life possible, smoother, more comfortable, more complete. And for many, their work was a kind of solace. A cobbler, seated in the same doorway day after day, hammering out solace from worn leather. A potter shaping the same clay his father had, fingers tracing the same ancient motions. The rhythms of their craft were their lullaby, predictable, repetitive, comforting. So if, by now, your eyes are growing heavy, know that you're not alone. Somewhere in the vast memory of time, 1,000 lamps are flickering. 1,000 quiet tradespeople are finishing their day. The sounds of hammers, shears, styluses, and spinning wheels are fading into silence. The empire may have passed, but the soft pulse of daily life, humble, unseen, still echoes gently in the stillness of sleep. Conclusion: echoes from the frontier, a gentle return to the present. And now, as we draw the lamp lower and close the scroll of this long Roman night, let us gently return from the world of empire of legionaries and villas, of bitter winters on the frontier and sun-dappled gardens in the heart of Latium. You have walked through the mud and frost of distant outposts, where soldiers stood alert under iron helmets, their breaths visible in the dawn chill, waiting for orders that might never come. You have felt the itch of coarse wool, the ache of worn boots, the endless rhythm of drill and duty, and the quiet comradeship of men whose names have long since faded from stone. You have listened to the whispers of the past of a once young general named Hadrian, with ink-stained fingers and heavy thoughts, whose dreams shaped walls of stone and mortar that still, in places, rise today. You have passed through ruins where answers sleep beneath moss and soil, and you have watched history flicker to life in the hearth fires of forgotten homes. And you've drifted too through the velvet quiet of the elite, among tapestries and painted ceilings, where power was a fragrance and control a quiet privilege, where life was curated and preserved like olives and honey to be admired at leisure. It is a strange comfort, perhaps, to know that time wore on for them as it does for us, that even emperors yawned at dusk, that even frontier soldiers paused to watch a bird take flight across a quiet sky. So rest now, with the hush of Rome still in your ears. Let the clatter of sandals fade, the scent of incense and baked bread dissolve into the cool air of night. Let marble columns blur into dreams, and the old empire retreat once more behind the veil of sleep. Tomorrow will come, as it did for them. But for now, there is nothing more to do, nothing more to know. The past has spoken softly, and it is time to rest. Good night.